chair here and one back over here. If you have a chair next to you, raise your hand and please come on and fill in the seats. There's one up here. And I'm president of the university. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this special place for our yearly ceremony honoring the memories of our departed colleagues. This place around the bell tower was a dream that I had when I first came here. I felt with the proud tradition that this institution has, there should be a place where we recognize those who have devoted their work life to this university. And through the generosity at that point in time, we didn't have the bell tower, but through the generosity of Mrs. Little, we built this wonderful bell tower, and that allowed us then to do the landscaping, which allowed a great place to put the memorial bricks. So it's especially pleasing to me to be able to be here at a time when this thought has come to fruition. We are grateful to the family and friends of these honorees for the gifts which help with the expense of engraving and placing these bricks as a permanent record of the service of those who have gone before. Today we salute 39 faculty and staff members who gave MSU a total of 580 years of service. We invite you to help us identify and realize others whose names should be added in future years. Our records are such that it may be that we have overlooked someone, and that's certainly not something that we want to do. And many of you have an institutional memory, and if you can think of anyone that we have not or do not have record of to be memorialized, please let us know that, and we will certainly then move forward to ensure that their names also appear here. Our rules are simple. A deceased person is eligible to be enshrined on this memorial plaza if they retired from the university or if they died while in service of the university. If you want to help recognize others, please contact the development office, for they are responsible for this project. At this time, I invite Keith Capus to come to the podium and read the names and years of service of each of the honorees. He will be assisted by Kyle Branham, a student, who will toll the bell from the control room on the second floor of the library.
Following the reading of the names, we would invite family members and friends to come forward to inspect the bricks. We want to make sure that all the names are spelled correctly. It's absolutely no problem to have a brick, an error corrected. If we need a new brick, we have done that in the past. Please don't be reluctant to point that out to us. We know that that's important to families. We honor our departed colleagues. John E. Sonny Allen, 1955, 1985. Evelyn Ambergy, 1953, 1984. Dr. Roger Barber, 1939 to 1940, 1946 to 1947. Mark Barnett, 1988, 1999. Maurice Pete Brown, 1966, 1986. Sylvia Brown, 1965, 1986. Dr. Leonard Burkett, 1967, 1981. Bernard Burton, 1964, 1973. Mary Henley Burton, 1965, 1983. Wilma Caudle, 1959, 1979. Scotland Cox, 1968, 1973. Samuel Denny, 1936, 1965. Bernard Bernie Ewers, 1969, 1987. Joan Ferguson, 1988, 1995. John Fields, 1970, 1974. Raymond Foose, 1966, 1983. Cleo Hale, 1967, 1974. Berthel Harden, 1952, 1975. Ernest E. Hinson, 1967, 1982. Don Holloway, 1963, 1972. Wendell Howard Jr., 1969, 1978. Lois Wong, 1969, 1986. Mary Josie, 1966, 1985. Annalie Morrison, 1949, 1988. Martha Norris, 1976, 1986. Dr. Ben K. Patton, 1960, 1984. Dr. R.H. Playforth, 1957, 1975. Norma Powers, 1966, 1971. Kenneth Riddle, 1957, 1982. Dorothy J. Riggs, 1932, 1939. Dr. Adolfo Ruiz, 1968, 1976. Claude Scott, 1963, 1972. Fred Swim, 1978, 1985. Martha Welch, 1970, 1977. Dr. Wilford A. Welther, 1932, 1939. Dr. Fenton T. West, 1947, 1958. Grace P. West, 1960, 1974. Dr. Dwight Williams, 1967, 1972. G. Lavinia Wilson, 1966, 1986.
We are dismissed from the ceremony, and we invite families to come up and see the bricks. I will tell you that the bricks will be placed in this summer, or possibly late this spring. They will, more than likely, he'll show you where they'll start. They'll be in the center, and we'll move down this side, and then we'll move over and do on the opposite side the same way. So the ceremony is over. Please feel free to come up and
One, two, three, four.
Call here in the back. Al Baldwin, can you hear me? I guess you can. You went like this. This is not very loud. Can you hear very clearly back there? I want you to hear every word I have to say. That's great. Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm pleased to welcome you to our year 2000 Founders Day Awards Luncheon. We're grateful to the Board of Trustees of the Msu Foundation for hosting this event and for their continued support of the university. We're glad to have you here today as we celebrate our 78th birthday as a public institution of higher learning and our 113th year overall as University of the Mountains. At this time, I invite Tim Rhodes, a member of the Foundation Board and one of our Assistant Vice Presidents, to offer our invocation.
Now let's pray together, please. And Father, we thank you so much for this beautiful day that you've given us. We thank you for this very special occasion. And Father, we thank you for our university. We thank you for the way you've blessed us over these years. Thank you for sending us great leadership, a caring faculty, and a dedicated staff to accomplish our mission. And as we remember many folks along the years who've helped and who've made such an impact, help us today to renew our commitment to our students, to providing access and opportunities, and to helping them find success. We ask you to bless our time together today. We pray that you please bless the food to our bodies and strengthen us for your service. Give us wisdom, give us strength, give us compassion, and help us to continue to make a difference in lives. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time I invite you to stand as Ricardo Kirtley, a freshman music major from Versailles, presents the university's alma mater. Thank you, Ricardo. Please be seated. First year, I told him. Now, before we proceed, please allow me to present a few of the many special guests who have joined us on this very special day. First, let me introduce those who are sitting at the head table. First, our Founder Day Award and recipient and his wife, Dr. and Mrs. Earl Bentley of Morehead. Y'all wave so they know who you are. Yeah. Our guest speaker and his wife, Dr. Luncheon, and his wife, Vi Yates, from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. They're really from Mayslick and Louisville, but Harrisburg just sounds uptown. That's all there's to it. Mr. and Mrs. Prock Cottle of Morehead. Prock's chair of our foundation. Bobby Prock. Dr. and Mrs. Bill Higginbotham. Bill's the CEO of the foundation, and Melissa. And my wife, Bonnie. Oh yeah. Well, you didn't have that down there. I'm going to introduce you later, but I'm going to do it now. Gene and Sue Cottle. Gene is a member. I do have you later, so you'll get to do it twice. Sue, thank you. Now, we have two former presidents of the university with us today for this anniversary, this birthday celebration. Please greet first President Emeritus Adrian and Manon Dorn. And President Emeritus, Dr. and Mrs. Nelson, Grody, and Wilma. We're proud of our positive relationships with our local government figures, and we have Mayor of Morehead, Mayor Brad Collins, with us today. Mayor? And I'm thumbling through my notes here. Bonnie says, put your glasses on, but I'm not going to do it. Yeah, I know that. Also, a member of our General Assembly, Adrian Swain, or Adrian Arnold. I just made you the curator, Adrian, of our Folk Art Center from Mount Sterling. Thank you so much for coming today. The highlight of each Founders Day is the presentation of the University Service Award, and we are pleased today to welcome several previous recipients and family members of other winners of that award. At this time, I'd like all of them to stand at the same time for your greeting. All the other winners of this Founders Award. I think we have several in the audience today. Or do we? Yes, we do. Yes, John, Ron, Jean. I'll be with it, folks. Just give me time. Here now to present the 2000 Founders Day Award for the University Service is the staff representative of our Board of Regents. He serves as Assistant Director of Physical Plant, Mr. Gene Caudle.
Thank you, Dr. Eaglin. I do remember your name. I have some prepared notes to introduce the award winner today, but I've worked here 30 years, and I think I deserve the right to ad-lib a little bit, especially towards this gentleman. This is the highest recognition afforded by the institution to those who have served the university in a distinguished fashion over a long period of time. And there is no doubt that this gentleman fits this criteria, but I have to tell one story. Tim Rhodes told me I have to tell one story about Dr. Bentley, and I'm going to tell it. I hope I don't offend the participants of the story. But Dr. Bentley was our department chair for many, many years in HPER and was very protective of his facilities. And he was always asking that things be done. And he worked it out with our Vice President, this is years ago, I'm not going to give the names, but this was years ago, to have the entire floor redone at Laughlin. And under the assurance that Dr. Bentley would take care of it. That was guaranteed. The very first day after it was done, Dr. Bentley walked in and there was a gentleman that was crushing out a cigarette in the middle of the floor. And Dr. Bentley did take care of the floor. It didn't matter to him that it was the Vice President that had ordered the floor to be done. So that's the type of person we're talking about today. He loved this place and he stood up for it, and I'm very proud to be here. On behalf of the Board of Regents and the university community, it's my privilege to make the presentation to Dr. Bentley. He has earned the respect and admiration of the friends, his colleagues, and his students, and many, many players. At this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Bentley to join me at the podium. Dr. Bentley holds degrees from Troy State University, the University of Tennessee, and the University of Southern Mississippi, and is a proud son of the state of Alabama, as anyone that knows him will attest to that. Today, this award expresses the gratitude of each person whose life he has touched. We are pleased to recognize him as an inspirational coach and as an academic leader. On behalf of the Board of Regents and the entire university, I am pleased to present Dr. Earl Bentley with the Founders Day Award for University Service.
Speakers usually have 1 to 3 speeches, and I ask someone is this an afternoon, night, or morning speech? It says, which is your shortest? So whatever that might be, but it's quite an honor to me to be considered a part of such an illustrious group. As I have mixed this morning and mingled with a lot of the people, it certainly has been a great influence on my life. And then to have such an honor to be considered to be a part of this group that I'm now a part of. It's great to know that people have that much confidence in someone that came to Morehead many, many years ago. And by the way, the first time I was asked to come to Morehead to see about working, I asked the individual, I'll talk about him in a minute, where is Morehead? He says, well, the map that you have, where is it? I said, it has Huntington, Lexington, and Cincinnati. He says, put a dot right in the triangle there, and that's Morehead. Well, first day up here, first day starting up here, my wife and I had driven 2 days and had gotten to Mount Sterling. So my wife said, go in there and call and tell them we're not coming because the road is going to stop. That was but thank goodness we continued our way on up here, and it's been quite nice. The thing about the university, it's having dealt with students, as all of you have, the first semester that most students would be with us, they couldn't hardly wait to get back to North Carolina, wherever it was they were from. And they said, why did you stay here? I said, well, 2 reasons why you stay at a place. One, they don't pay you enough money to get out of town to look for another job. Or either you like it pretty well, you know. So the last one was why we stayed. Money was kind of an irrelevant thing, but going like that. But as we think in terms of our function in life, what I'd like to share with you would be some reflections. Some reflections that each one of us have. As we have in people in the English department, they have stolen all the good lines to talk about anything like this. But as we were talking about what to talk about, by the way, my wife said, don't talk too long. I don't care what you say, don't talk too long. But one thing we'd like to share with you, the man in the glass. Larry Dean Brown can quote this verbatim. But it goes on, when you think you've got everything, and when you think you got the world in a jug, and when you think you are rich, look at the man in the glass. And you may find that the whole world, which that's me today, thinks you're pretty tough. You think that you know everything. You've been embarrassed if you don't tell the truth with the man in the glass. And as I have attempted to work with students in any work around Morehead, I've always tried to live up to that. Now, what else could I do to make this a better place in which for students to be? Students was always number one with me and like that. Some other things that I'd like to share with you is the reflections, and have 4 things I'd like to just share with you. Reflection, what if? What if? You go back through your life, what if I had not done certain things? For example, young man here, had he not ever called me, I would have never heard of Morehead. Coach Guy Penny called me and says, I'd like for you to come up here and help me line off a football field. So what if I had never met him? And then as we think in terms of this, what if other people down through your lives that if you hadn't have been associated with, what if that hadn't happened? Another thing is, after that, what has happened? What has happened? Because of Morehead State University, it provided me an opportunity to do the many things that I had dreamed about. Some of you have seen that little movie called Field of Dreams. One of the great, to me, it's one of the greater movies. But Morehead provided me the opportunity to grow, not swell, grow. And it provided me the opportunity to do some things that years ago I dreamed about, that this is life. And it provided me the opportunity to visit people, and I have met some of the finest people in the world, students and faculty. And another thing about Morehead is, at the time whenever we were working here, everybody had the same goal. And the other thing that we'd like to say, what's now? What's now? What are we doing now? What are we doing now? What are we doing now? You either, it's one or two things you do to people. You help them or hurt them. If you do nothing, you've hurt them. Now, what do? I don't know. I don't know. And then there's, what effect have I had on my comrades? What effect do we have? Sometimes you say, nothing. It's amazing what rubs off sometimes. And as a little boy that, in closing, as we go through life, as we reflect back, there was a young man that wrote a little thing, it went off, started off, it said, so live that when thy summons come to join. And then the last part of that, it says, I'll lay down and have pleasant dreams. This has been a highlight of my life, the highlight of my life. I now can lay down in pleasant dreams. Thank you.
It's easy to see why this is such a great university when you have people who have gone back 30 years of their life here, and I know that you know people who went back another 30 when you were a young man and they were here and have those same values, and we're so pleased for this honor we're able to bestow upon you today. We are also pleased today on this historic occasion to welcome someone who feels right at home on this campus because he earned 2 degrees here. I also found out he met his spouse here, and that's always great because I met my spouse on a college campus. He launched his highly successful career in public education. Your program has details of his background, but I want you to know why we hold this man in such high esteem. I first met him soon after coming to the university when, as principal of Louisville Western High School, he brought a busload of students to visit the campus and to see a football game. I can remember that because I think he saw a student not dressed the way he wanted her to be dressed, and he made a comment to her and right in front of me, which kind of surprised me. But he cared so much about that young lady, he wanted to make sure that she got off on the right foot in terms of being successful. He sent us many students over the years, and it was at one of those early meetings here or in Louisville when I asked him how we might help him, and he shared the problems of finding minority teachers for his school and others. Those comments and similar ones from other urban schools led Dr. Grody early and myself to start the Minority Teacher Education Program. And in honor of his success in school administration and to thank him again for sharing that great idea, we invited current students in that program to join us today. And I'd like for Ms. Winfield and her students and the advisory committee members to stand for our greetings. I think most of them are sitting over here. Please stand and let us see you. Ms. Winfield and the students who are currently in this program. You know, it's right. what if Dr. Yates didn't say those words? And just to follow right on through the statements that were shared with us, there are a lot of what ifs if things didn't happen and people didn't care. Dr. Yates will meet with this group right after this ceremony in the Wriggle Room, and you'll have the opportunity to speak to him personally and learn from his wisdom and his expertise. He is a dynamic educator with a high-profile school district in the state capital of Pennsylvania. He has traveled the world to help schools be successful, and we are so very proud today to present to you the superintendent of schools in Harrisburg and one of our own, Dr. Luncheon Yates.
Mr. President. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I can't hardly wait to see what I have to say myself after an introduction like that. I first give honor to God, who is the head and the captain of my life, to President and Mrs. Eaglin, to President Mr. and Adrian and Manon Doran, to President and Mrs. Nelson Grody, to the planners of this event, to the head table, to all of God's children, I say, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. There you go. In the South, and especially in the Black Baptist Church, we want people to talk back to us. So if I say something that you agree with, wave your hand, say amen, say whatever you want to say, but I'm not here to entertain. But I'm here because I want to give back to this university what this university has given me. And I think as a result of having been here, I can compete with the best of them. And I have. And so we want to talk today about how you, in whatever your role is, former presidents, current presidents, deans, whatever your role is, how you can make dreams come true for young people. Now, before I go further, I have to say this because I get in trouble every time I speak. I get so impassioned about what I do and sharing it with other people, sometimes I forget to recognize my wife. I've been married to the same woman for 21 years. And we met right here at Morehead. When I was getting ready to leave Louisville to go accept the superintendency in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, we drove back to see Vi's mother before we loaded the moving van and all that stuff. And we were riding through Mays Lick, Kentucky. How many of you ever been to Mays Lick? Okay. We were riding through, and we saw this man on the side of the road. And he ran up and said, "Hey, Vi, how you doing?" And anyway, it looked like life had dealt him a couple of dirty blows. Looked like a couple of teeth were missing in the front. And you know, looked like it's down on his luck. I said, "Vi, who in the world is that?" She said, "That's John. That used to be my boyfriend." I said, "Really?" And then I said, "Aren't you glad that you married somebody that dresses like I do, who has all of his teeth, who has an earned doctorate from Ohio University, a principal certification from Ohio State, 2 bachelor's and a master's from Morehead, and now I'm going to be the superintendent of the Harrisburg, Pennsylvania School District. Aren't you glad you married me?" She said, "Had I married John, he would have been the superintendent in Harrisburg." So it's that kind of partnership that we have had for 21 years, and it's the reason that I'm able to do some of the things that I do, because she takes care of those things at home. When I am humbled and I'm honored, Mr. President, and I'm privileged to be invited to speak here today for this Founders Day celebration. I have many fond memories of Morehead State University. Many, many fond memories, and I must say, those memories outweigh the others. And I can't think of much that bad happened to me at Morehead. I remember with clarity the gospel choir and how we used to travel every Sunday, and we knew we would get a home-cooked meal on Sunday when the choir went somewhere. I remember my relationships that I developed as a member of the Omega Psi Phi fraternity and as a founder here. I remember those classes. I remember Dr. Jackson, who was my mentor, and I'm so glad to see him here today. Dr. Jackson, why don't you stand up? That's my mentor. He told me one day, he said, "Come here, boy. I'm going to show you the ropes." And he did. I've been in many situations in my career, and it's not that I'm the superintendent of a school district with 9,000 students and a budget of $84 million. That's not really important. It's not important that I'm overseeing a $175 million building project. That's not really important. It's not important that I was featured in November 1999 Newsweek or the January edition of Atlantic Monthly, and will be featured in an upcoming edition of Technology and Learning. That's not really important. It's not really important that I was on a call-in talk show with the Secretary of Education, Richard Riley, the Secretary of Labor, Robert Reich, and the President of the United States, Bill Clinton. That's not really important. It's not important that I have consulted with principals and teachers around the country and around the world. I was invited to Russia as they were moving from communism to democracy to help them, to show them what schools should be like. That's not really important. But what's really important when you are recognized by your own, when you go back to your alma mater and they invite you to come back and speak. As I was telling people in Pennsylvania that I was coming back here for this today, I said, "Have any of you ever done this? What kind of advice can you give me?" And nobody had. That's what's really important. I cherish many of the memories that I have here. I spent 7 wonderful years here at Morehead. In fact, my mother thought I was a perennial student because I had a double major in history and political science and a master's in history. She thought I was here because I loved to party, and I do. Well, I did, but I loved Morehead as much. As I thought about this, I said, what can I say to a group that are much my seniors and some my juniors? What can I say to this kind of group? And I was in my study at my home, and I was reading one night a book by Michelle Hunt called Dream Makers. It's a series of stories and essays about people who have defined and created for themselves an ethical space within which they have reached toward their potential and produced amazing results. This book is not about theory, but it's about achievement. It's not about success of ego, but about serving others. So I said, herein may lie something that I can say to this audience here today. Now, the president said I could take as long as I wanted to, but if I was too long, he would pull my coat. So I'm trusting on him to do that for me. So I decided to use as a topic, and remember, if I say something you agree with, say amen, wave your hand, write on something to let me know you're out there, okay? I decided that we might want to talk about dreams. And it's a specific question that each of us will have to answer individually as well as collectively. And that question is, are you a dream maker or a dream breaker? Dream maker or a dream breaker? Dreams. What are dreams? We all have them. I remember as a little boy, at one point I wanted to be a policeman or a fireman. Some of you probably wanted to be a nurse or an astronaut. Some of you probably wanted to play for the Kentucky Wildcats or the Louisville Cardinals or maybe the Morehead Eagles. Some of you right now are having dreams of becoming debt-free. Some of us are thinking about getting that child through high school, college, or whatever. We all have these dreams. Edmund O'Neill said, deep within our hearts, each of us carries the seed of a secret, special, unique dream. Dreams, what are dreams? Webster calls dreams a series of thoughts, images, or emotions occurring during sleep. Scientifically, we might say that dreams occur when the dominant hemisphere of the brain sleeps and it allows the less dominant hemisphere of the brain to run wild. Have you ever wondered why you can't remember dreams when you wake up? The dominant hemisphere of the brain takes over and overshadows. So if you don't transfer it from that less dominant side to the dominant side, you forget it. Dreams, what are dreams? In biblical days, dreams always foretold what would be happening in the future. Births were foretold in dreams. Famines were foretold in dreams. Many people have written about dreams. Ben Sira in the Book of Wisdom said that dreams give wings to fools. Defoe in The History of the Devil says, to dream is nothing else but to think while sleeping. In the first book of the Old Testament, Genesis, it is exclaimed, behold, this dreamer cometh. M.S. Michael in Sweet Murder says that dreams are subconscious truths. Sigmund Freud said that dreams are a subconscious way of explaining the real man. He even developed a system called psychoanalysis to interpret dreams. Woodrow Wilson said, we grow great by dreams. Shakespeare in Hamlet said, to sleep, perchance to dream. Ah, there's the rub. Many people have tried to make it a science of analyzing dreams. Martin Luther King talked about having a dream where we would be judged on the content of our character and not on the color of our skin. Langston Hughes said, what happens to a dream deferred? He goes further in another poem and says, hold fast to dreams, because if dreams die, they're like a broken-winged bird that cannot fly. Dreams. Dreams. Our children have dreams, but they live in a constant state of nightmares. Children without adult supervision are at significantly greater risk of truancy, stress, isolation, alienation, receiving poor grades, and risk-taking behaviors such as substance abuse. Children who grow up poor are more likely to become teenage parents, high school dropouts, or unemployed adults. There is evidence that the extensive depiction of violence in the media can both model and legitimatize aggressive behavior by children and youth. In 1977, 73.6 million children under the age of 18 came from families with at least one variable characterizing risky behaviors. Did you know that in this country every day, 20% of our children are being raised by grandparents because parents are not willing, able, or capable of raising their own children? 20%. Each day in this country, 75 girls under the age of 18 give birth to their third child. 1 in 2 marriages end in divorce. 30% of all births in 1994 were to unmarried women. 75% of all women with school-age children are working outside the home. 30% of all African-American males under the age of 25, 30% of all African-American males under the age of 25 are in the penal justice system. There are more African-American males in prison than there are in college, and it's more expensive to keep them in prison than to send them to Morehead. Teenagers reach puberty today 2 to 3 years earlier than they did in 1990. Each day in this country, over 100,000 guns are brought to school each day. A few years ago, when I was in school, we didn't know about Paducah, Kentucky, or Columbine, or Pearl, Mississippi, or Edinburgh, Pennsylvania. Hate crimes, sexism, homophobia, classism, all of those ills are on the rise. I remember when I was a principal, I saw a kid and I said, so, Jeff, you're graduating this year, what are you going to do? He said, what do you mean, what am I going to do? I said, what kind of plans are you making for the future? And he looked me square in my eye and said, you don't get it, do you? I said, get what? He said, why should I plan for a future when the chances are I won't even live to see it? Our children are living nightmares, yet secretly they have dreams. So I ask you today, are you going to be a dream maker, or are you going to be a dream breaker? So many times when I meet children or I speak to organizations, or I ask them the question, they think I've always had it together, that I've always dressed this way, that I've always driven in a nice car and lived in a nice house, but that's not the case. By all predictions, I shouldn't be standing before you today because I was a poor child raised in a loving home, but a poor family. I should have been another statistics. But I am fortunate because I had some dream makers in my life that pulled me over those difficult times, that told me that as long as you work hard, boy, you can be anything that you want to be. Now let me just talk about it just for a little bit. I was born in Harrodsburg, Kentucky, to Lucien and Rosalind Yates. My father died when I was in graduate school here, but my mother is getting up in age, and she thought she was going to be able to drive up today, but she was not able to be with us. Education was always emphasized in my home. And they said, we don't care about all this other junk that's happening, but if you get an education, that's the great equalizer in this country. Now, we used to be able to dream and used to play like. Let's play like you're a millionaire. Or you play like you're the teacher. Or you play like you're the principal. So we were able to have childhood. And there's a book that's been written, Children Without Childhood, and so many of our children have to grow up much faster than they should have to. I went to a segregated school. I went to Westside High School in Harrodsburg, Kentucky, and we had 3 teachers, none of which had a bachelor's degree. Because see, you didn't have to have a bachelor's degree to teach colored children because they're really not worth it. That's the way it was in the segregated South in Kentucky at that time. We used to get hand-me-down books from the white school. We were studying that there were 48 states, but really there were 50. We just got those old books. We didn't have PE, we didn't have music, and we didn't have a library in my school. But I went to the public library and said, I want to read, because I can go places and I can visit other places if I read, and I can become somebody if I read. So I remember we integrated when I was going into the 5th grade. And so we went and had this music teacher, and she said, we're going to play the flutophone. I said, what's a flutophone? I didn't even know which end to put in my mouth. We didn't have music. We didn't have music books at our former school. So she treated us with disdain and disrespect that we were incapable of learning. So I made a vow to myself, when I go back in the 6th grade, I'm going to be able to play this blankety blank thing. So I started taking piano lessons from the organist at church. My lessons were 75 cents per week. When my parents found out I was taking piano lessons, I owed the lady $17. And back in that day, that was a lot of money. So she said, you're not quitting, I'm not going to let you. I said, but I want, no. So that summer, I took piano lessons. We didn't have a piano at home. So I would run down the street when they would ring the bell for Sunday school so I could practice on a real piano before my next week's lesson. I drew the notes on a piece of cardboard and practiced on a piece of cardboard my piano lessons. Well, that summer, I learned how to read music. And I read the book that said if you cover all the holes on this thing, that's middle C, okay? And I taught myself that summer how to play this flutophone. So I go back in the 6th grade, and she said, who wants to take the lead on this part? And I raised my hand, and she tried to ignore me, and I wouldn't let her. I said, I want to do it. And she rolled her eyes at me, she said, okay. And she counted off, 1, 2, ready, play. And I played that thing flawlessly. She said, very good. When did you learn how to do that? And I knew God would give me my opportunity. I told her, don't you worry about it, you didn't teach me. Now, what some people would have done, and some of my friends did do, they let that woman steal her dream. I said, no, you're not stealing my dream. If other people can learn how to do this, I can learn how to do it too. So I learned how to play the flutophone. Then I got really brass. I want to be in the marching band. So the band director said, no, I don't want your kind in my band. Remember, this is in the 60s, segregated South. Could not be in the marching band. So one door slams in your face, God has a way of opening others. I came to Morehead State University never knowing how to play a band instrument, and I marched in Morehead State University's marching band. I was going to be a music major till I saw how hard it was and Dr. Hawkins didn't play. So I said, no, I can't do this. I'll be a little railed by the time I finished here. But all through my life, there have been doors that have been shut, and you have one or two ways that you can respond. You can respond in the negative, or you can learn from that situation so that you can become better. I remember when I graduated from here, I wanted to go work on my master's, but my grades weren't that good. So young people, work on your grades, okay? But I had been working as an undergraduate work study student for Dr. Jackson, and I wanted to be his assistant, but I was told my grades weren't high enough. So Dr. Jackson said, if he makes a 3.0 his first semester in graduate school, will you give him an assistantship? And the chairman of the department at that time said, yes, we will. I made a 3.5. So Dr. Jackson went back and said, he made a 3.5, now your side of the bargain is, he's now my assistant. So I had a graduate assistantship working for Dr. Jackson. But let me tell you what happened. I thanked him, and he said, oh, no, 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 no. You don't understand. You don't thank me, but when you're in a position, you have to make sure that you give back. That's the lesson that I learned here at Morehead State. So my whole life has been nothing but that of service. So I became his graduate assistant, and my dreams started to fall in place. So I'm going to close. That's how the Baptist preachers say. I'm getting ready to take my seat. But there are three things, there are three words that I have learned that have become governing principles in my life. And it's ESP that I learned at Morehead. Not extrasensory perception, that I can look in the future and see what's going to happen, or I can judge people by looking at them and talking. I can't do that. And that's called discernment. I can read right through you like I can look through a glass. But I learned three words, ESP, here. And the first one is excellence. Mediocrity, when I was here, and I'm sure it's the same now, was not tolerated. You had to give your best at all times. Nothing less than the best would have been accepted. I remember my mother used to say, boy, in order to be considered average, you've got to be super. You've got to be prepared. We wrote term papers. In fact, I was talking to Dr. Flatt in the history department. After the sophomore level, every course that you took, you had to write a research paper, 15 to 30 pages. And I hated it for it. But now I wish I could see it and say thank you, because I became a better writer as a result of that. Average young people is not good enough. And when you had difficulties, when I was here, we set up programs and processes and procedures to make sure that you got the assistance that you needed. The S, that whole notion of service. I told you that Dr. Jackson told me, no, don't thank me. But in the future, when you're in a position, you make sure that you give back what other people have given to you. So that's what I've tried to do. And let me, if you would, just indulge me for one moment, and I hope I can get through this without crying. I was sitting in my office one day, and I got this letter that said, personal and confidential. So you always think, oh, is this a bill collector? What is this? Who's writing me personal and confidential? It was one of my former students from Western High School. And I just received this on the 13th of March. And it said, Dear Lucian. Now, as soon as I get to see him, I'm going to say, even though you think you're grown, you will never call me by my first name. So as soon as I see him, I'm going to tell him that. And I'm going to have to be, I know the president didn't want to wear his glasses. I understand vanity. But also,
Not at this level.
I'm also a pragmatist. He says, how are you? Well, I guess I will start by seeing if you remember me. It's Eddie Wilson from Western. You got me one of those one-year GE scholarships to Morehead in the summer of 1993. At the time, I told you thanks and that I appreciated it, but I really was not sure why I appreciated it. I spent 5.5 wonderful years at Morehead. I met people from all over the world, even lived with a guy from Brazil my last semester. That was an experience all in itself. I graduated in May of 1999 with a K-4 teaching degree. I am working at Dixie Elementary School, teaching 3rd and 4th grade. I absolutely love it. I am currently looking for a PE job so I can start coaching because portfolios are consuming most of my free time. And he has a little smile there. My last year at Western, I picked up some bad habits, drugs and drinking, along with some pretty undesirable friends. I look back now at my crew that I ran with and they all seem to be revolving around a world of undesirable habits. I know in my heart that getting out of and away from Louisville helped me not to fall right into the same mode. I still remember one thing you said to me when I thanked you the first time. You said, and this is in quotes, "Just promise me that one day you will do the same for someone else." At that time, I really wasn't sure why you said it, but the more I realized how important college and change is, the better I come to understand. I hope to be affecting children's lives the way you have affected mine, totally positive. I plan on getting my master's in some kind of administration. I would love to work getting students scholarships and grants and hopefully affecting them in the same way. I sure felt like I had a lot more to say, but I guess I have to come to a block. I just want you to know that you totally saved and changed my life, and I am totally indebted to you. I hope I have made you proud, and I hope one day I can give back what you gave to me. And he says, P.S. I ran into Cecil Brookins, who was also a Morehead graduate and a student of mine. I ran into Cecil at the gym, and he graciously gave me your address. Forever thankful, Michael Eddie Wilson. Now that's service. He now wants to give back because somebody gave to him. I gave to him because somebody gave to me. You see what we're talking about? It's talking about all of us affecting the lives of each other. And the last word, the last letter is P, and that's perseverance. Don't ever give up. Encourage people. I don't care if you're old, young, white, black, it doesn't make any difference to me. We need to encourage people to adopt the philosophy of ESP, excellence, service, and perseverance. So dreaming is important. We need to each personally and collectively talk about dreams and perpetuate those dreams coming true in other people's lives. And I learned all of that at Morehead State University. There's a poem that has become my mantra that sees me through a lot of things that I go through. And trust me, as superintendent and as president, you go through a lot. And you have to have something that can sustain you. And there's this little poem I had to learn when I was pledging the fraternity. And it's called See It Through by Edgar A. Guest. And it says, when you're up against the trouble, meet it squarely, face to face. Lift your chin, set your shoulders, plant your feet, and take a brace. If the worst is bound to happen in spite of all that you can do, running from it will not save you. See it through. Black may be the clouds about you, and your future may seem grim, but don't let your nerves desert you. Keep yourself in fighting trim. If the worst is bound to happen, in spite of all that you can do, you may fail, but you may conquer. See it through. Even hope may seem but futile when with trouble you're beset, but remember you are facing just what other men have met. You may fail, but fall still fighting. Don't give up whate'er you do. Eyes front, head high to the finish. See it through. And I'd just like to say thank you, Morehead State University, for making my dreams come true.
Lucian, I want you to see this. Folks, we have some special music for you. Jesse Wells and the Woodpickers, and as they get up there and get themselves situated, I'm going to say a few things about them they don't know. We have gone on a journey to create a center for traditional music, to celebrate the music from this region. And we had an advisory committee come with some pretty high-powered musicians and songwriters to give us guidance. And we thought it would be a great idea to have some of our local talent to play for them, all students. Now, the key here is that I told them they're really uptown because when they played for us, they didn't have a name. Now they got a name. So here they are. It's all yours, boys.
More allergy sufferers out there today? Okay, so you have to bear with me if you can hear me. Awesome. We're going to move this few more mics up, so I'm told I need to talk some more. Introduce everybody. This is J.T. Cure. He's going to be playing bass today.
Where from?
What's that?
Where's he from?
He is from Elkhorn City. He's a Pike County boy. Oh, we got some Pike County gallery. This is Jesse Wells. He's out of Red Bush, Kentucky, in Johnson County. I'm sure everybody knows where the Red Bush is. I didn't know where Red Bush is, really. He's been out there a few times. And I'm Chris Stapleton, and I'm from Johnson County also. I'm from Paintsville. Almost ready, I think. That's good enough. We're going to go ahead. We'll play real loud. I was born in the Southland. Some 20-odd years ago. Ran away for the first time when I was only 4 years old. I'm a reborn man. Home is on my back. I know every inch of my way, every foot back, every mile of railroad track. I was a girl in Cincinnati and one in San Antonio. Oh, I love the girl next door because any place is home, I'm a reborn man. My home is on my back. I know every inch of my way, every foot back on my railroad track. Guitar and a worn-out old sign. No, I hopped about 200 times, but I always got it back. I'm a reborn man. My home is on my back. I know every inch of highway, every foot of back road, every mile of railroad track. not like my appearance, and you may not like my song, and you may not like the way I talk, but you like the way I'm gone on a freeborn man. My home is on my back. I know every inch of highway, every foot of back road, every mile of railroad track. Thank you much, Mr. Black, for rooting hard for whatever you want to do. You can tug on our jacket anytime you want to cut us off here. I will play a classical tune now. That means build the road in traditional music. We'll put our own little twist on it. The wind is blowing from
Let's hear it for them. Yes, sir. Jesse Wells and the Woodpeckers. Thank you, boys. Thank you. They're going to play at our gala. You know, we have several rooms and genres of music, and what you're going to be called the Bach Street Boys. They're going to change your name, but they'll be there so you can hear them. Come to the gala, you can hear them again. Thank you again, fellas. The other primary reason for being here today is to say thank you to special friends for their gifts and efforts on behalf of the university. As Prock and I move down to the floor, I invite Bill Higginbotham, Chief Executive Officer of the MSU Foundation, to assist us in making several awards and presentations.
Our first award today goes to the man who helped us raise nearly $300,000 last fall for the new endowment honoring Dr. Adrian Doran on his 90th birthday. He previously served Morehead State University as a vice president for physical affairs from July of 1962 till June 1976. The swimming pool in the Academic Athletics Center is named in his honor. Today, we are proud to recognize as our volunteer fundraiser of the year, Russell R. McClure.
I just want to say I did it for a man I love, a university I love, an incumbent president that I admire and respect, and editorially, I love the bell tower. All right.
Our second award today goes to another volunteer, but in a very different manner. This volunteer has served on the MSU Foundation Board of Trustees for 20 years, making him the senior member in terms of service. The MSU Foundation, Inc. is a nonprofit Kentucky corporation organized under KRS Chapter 273 and incorporated in 1979 for the sole purpose of providing financial assistance to Morehead State University. It is also a tax-exempt foundation organized for charitable purposes under Section 501 of the IRS Code of the United States. As chairman of the foundation's nominating committee, the recipient of this award has worked to recruit new members to expand the foundation's board from across the region and nation, recognizing MSU's status as a major regional university with alumni in key positions all over the world. This effort is particularly important as MSU seeks to capture the opportunity offered by Governor Paul Patton's Bucks for Brains program to achieve a very substantial endowment for Morehead State University. In addition to serving the foundation for 20 years, this individual is a former president of the Morehead State University Alumni Association, a member of the MSU Hall of Fame, active all his life in local and state government, and last but not least, met his wife Jane here, maybe the best thing he achieved as an undergraduate. Please join us in recognizing James Paul Pruitt as Foundation Board Member of the Year. Faculty and staff members are important members of any university's fundraising team, and today we are pleased to recognize two who have been outstanding in their efforts to encourage colleagues to give. Please join us in saluting Madonna Weathers and April Haight as faculty staff fundraisers of the year. Madonna is Director of Student Development and has served as a Unit Development Officer. She served as 1999 co-chair of our Campus Giving campaign and will lead that project this year. April is MSU's coordinator of recycling and has also served as a unit development officer. This year, she has taken special interest in securing funding for Lappin Hall Native Plant Project, including a matching gift from Kentucky Wood Product Competitiveness Corporation. Today, we're pleased to honor these outstanding members of the MSU family. Each year, we honor one person or group with the Most Valuable Giver Award. The man we honor today would not allow us to say anything about his magnificent gift during his lifetime. A retired teacher, Thomas Raymond Curtis of Flat Gap in Johnson County, Kentucky, left MSU $1.3 million in his will to set up a scholarship fund. It's the single largest gift in our history. We believe Mr. Curtis would be pleased today that this award is being accepted by a student from Flat Gap in Johnson County, Amanda Jo Pennington, a workshop student in the development office, who will deliver it to the only family member. Amanda, would you come down and receive that award? It is now time to recognize the new members of the Society of MSU Fellows. If you know someone who would or should be a member of this important organization, please contact someone in the Development Office or the Foundation Office. As your names are called, we ask the new fellows to come forward and accept their recognition. Al and Yvonne Baldwin of Morehead. Al accepting. Mick and Linda Barker of Las Vegas, Nevada. Accepting for them is Levada Cottle, Linda's mother. Linda. Miss Cottle was telling me earlier today that she went to college here 60 years ago. Sarah Betty Blong of Cincinnati, Ohio. Accepting is her daughter, Tammy Jones. Francine and Vincent Butler of Morehead. Vincent is accepting. Wayne and Brenda Judy of Westerville, Ohio. Accepting on their behalf is Jerry Martin. Dennis and Carol Krawatka of Morehead. Jerry and Angela Martin of Winchester. Mark and Joyce Miner of Morehead. Larry and Mary Jo Netherton of Morehead. David and Mary Rudy of Morehead. David's accepted. Bill, Beverly, and John Weiss of Lexington. Thank you. President Eaglin.
I'll now recognize Keith for a special presentation. Keith Capus for a special.
I'd like to ask the head table members if you'll go over and have a seat along that wall, please, so you can see the screen. Mr. President, I'd like to invite you to come down here and sit in the middle. Even a jack-o'-lantern maker. Always make time for healthy exercise. Training to be a president is hard work. Could a kid from Missouri make it to the big time in a bow tie? It's important to get away whenever you can. Some days I wish my wife hadn't majored in home ec. Now, Ron, we see what's wrong with your golf game.
That was a talent show.
If he was 26 in 66, then, oh God, he must be 3 score this year. Never fail to take time for yourself. That's Henry Kissinger in front of him. Sometimes we must walk in the footsteps of other humble men. It's important to learn how to relax. I bet old Grandpa didn't see this kind of a double team at the Final Four. Yes, it does pay to listen to the right folks. Yes, champ, I understand that I have to get along with Dr. Davies because I'm simply too old to float like a butterfly and steam like a bee. Not taking yourself too seriously can be a real asset to a president. And the shirt reads, "Behold the ageless wonder." Being outdoors is good for your health, all except your wrist. Our leader surely is looking ahead, probably to Social Security. Happy birthday, Bob.
That wasn't on the script anywhere. Thank you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear President.
Ron's okay. Thank all of you, and I'm sorry you had to go through all this. I really am. You go. 30 piece, those are. Blow them all out?
I think you probably could.
Oh.
If you want to.
It says, "Happy birthday, Ron England." There's a mortarboard and a diploma,
Isn't that not a mortarboard is?
a hat,
Graduation.
a golf club, a ball, and a tennis racket. And all of you are certainly welcome to eat as much as this as you would like. And luncheon, where are we? Lunch. But all the planning committee, if you could please stand up in the chair. Sue Lucky, if you, planning committee for our Founders Day, if you could just please stand and recognize you. And Sue, for all of our hard work. Down the street in a few minutes, we'll officially break ground for the largest capital construction project in the history of the university, some $14 million, and that came really with an idea back in 1990, Nelson, and it came to fruition, and you're going to be turning that earth too, because I want you up there with me, for the renovation and expansion of Breckenridge Hall. Thank all of you for being with us today. Your patients, remember students, you're going to get a great opportunity to meet Lucien later, or Dr. Yates. There's a wriggle room now, you all can do that unless you want a piece of cake. So thank all of you for coming, have a great day. I hope you're down at the groundbreaking, which will be in about 15 minutes. I apologize for being late. This is Founders Day, and we have had many events across the whole day. And we had a luncheon that started at noon, but it didn't end until just about 15 minutes ago. So for those of you who have been waiting, I apologize. But It's such a historic event today, I think you'll be pleased that you were here to witness it. I am pleased to welcome you to this historic event in the life of Morehead State University. The renovation and expansion of this building is costing $14 million, making it the single most expensive capital construction project in the history of the university. As you can see, work has already begun, but we believe it is important to commemorate this day as Breck begins to evolve into an ultra-modern classroom and office building to serve our Department of Communications. I've been watching with interest as first nothing looked like anything was going on, and all of a sudden a fence appeared. And 2 weeks ago I was at a student forum and they asked why the fence went out so far and why did we lose that beautiful bridge. Well, sometimes you lose beautiful things to progress because, as others will probably tell you later, this building is going to expand in both directions. It will still look like the wonderful building it is, which is on the historical register, but it will have approximately 20,000 plus more square feet, which will allow our students to have the best, the absolute best, to support them in their discipline. The record shows that the university started asking for state funds for this project in 1990 under the leadership of my good friend and colleague, President Nelson Grody. Nelson, raise your hand. This man started the idea, and it took this long, but Nelson, we're so pleased that you can be here for the fruition of this project. But it was not until the 1998 session of the General Assembly that allowed us to get the funding for this project. We appreciate the help of Representative John Will Stacy from Morgan County and Senator Robert Stivers from Clay County in securing the funding. Without that funding, none of us could be here today for this wonderful event. At this time, I invite Joe Plank, Director of Physical Plant, to introduce our guest from out of town who will participate in the ceremony. Joe?
Contractor rep, go shut that off. That's good. Well, that's good sound effects, right? Right. Okay, we're pleased to have with us today as part of the construction crew and the people who helped design this project and to turn the first spades of soil in this ceremony with us. We have Danny Shear, who is Director of the Division of Contracting and Administration. Would you come on forward, Danny? Who's going to help? We have Butch Hatcher, who is the project architect with the Division of Engineering, been very instrumental in the complete design of the project. We have as a representative from the architectural firm of Sherman, Carter, and Barnhart from Lexington, Kentucky, Brian Lanham, who's been the project manager. We have with us from CMTA, the engineers for this project, David Higgins. And we have with us representing the firm of CB&S, the construction contractors for the firm, of Steve Ranicky, who is the Secretary-Treasurer for CB&S Construction Company.
We have some other shovelers here, in every sense of the word. I'd like for Nell Mahaney. Ms. Mahaney's a retired math professor at the university. She's here today to represent the Board of Governors of the Breckenridge School Society. Nell, if you'll just come on over here with the others. The Breck Society, by the way, which is an alumni group of more than 2,000 people who attended this building when it was a laboratory school, that organization has raised over $200,000 to support scholarships for current students at the university, and we're real pleased that Nell can be here to represent them. Dr. Grody has his shovel, the president has his, Dr. Moore, the academic vice president. Right. We'd like for Representative Adrian Arnold from Mount Sterling to come forward and get a shovel. Representative Arnold voted for the budget to help fund this building. We're pleased that he's here. We'd like Dean Barry, Dean of the College of Humanities, to take a shovel. Dr. Kinney, Chair of the Department of Communications. Gene Cottle, who's here representing the Board of Regents. Did Joe get a shovel? Joe Plank?
When work was announced.
Oh, Joe, where did Joe get a shovel? Yeah, Joe shoveled all the gravel here so he wouldn't have to be in the mud, right? Okay, Dan Conti, the general manager of the radio station, going to be one of our shovelers. Representing the students who will study in this building, a student who will be here to finish when this building opens in 2 years, Amber Philpott. Amber's an electronic media major. She's a freshman from Cynthiana.
She's dressed for shoveling.
Yeah, she's got her shoveling clothes on, okay? I see, Ken, you want to come forward and tell us what you have here? Ken Sexton, a member of the faculty, Department of Communications.
With the help of Jeff Spradling's shop and his excellent staff, we came up with a commemorative poster, and I've been handing those out. I want to make sure that everybody has a chance to get one who wants one, and we do have more. And it shows the building as originally constructed. There were no trees on the landscaping out here. We're not starting from zero, and I think it's going to be a mighty fine building. Thank you.
President Eaglin and President Grody would be happy to sign one of those commemorative posters if you'd like to have it. Okay. I see some faculty members. Dr. Beal, you want to come up and take a shovel and join us here?
I've been wanting to hand you a shovel. Get to work there, bud.
Somebody take Dr. Sexton's bundle there and let him. Cam, come up and grab a shovel. We want you to help us out here too. Any other faculty? Tom Yancey.
We'll double on a shovel.
Thank you.
All right. Tom and I will double on one.
All right.
Tom, you and I share the shovel. Can you shovel the left?
Tom's from Texas. He's good at shoveling.
You and I will double it. Okay.
All right. Now, photographers, we're going to get everybody in position, and we'll do this on a cue, okay? Joe, you and Dan got to be better friends than that. Go on down.
Come on in. Joe, there's a root under mine.
We'll dig that out.
I got a big rock. Yeah.
Danny, you get up here. You come in.
Oh, yeah, we got to get everybody in.
We'll do this in waves.
We can kind of turn side.
Now, get a little dirt on your shovel. Don't take it out of the ground yet, but get some dirt on it, all right? You guys that are back there digging in the sod, do the best you can.
Yeah.
All right, you got dirt on your shovel, lift it about a foot off the ground.
Yeah.
All right, now, all of you, let me get out of the line of fire here.
Boy, you're in trouble.
All right, on my count of 3, gently toss it forward for the photographers, all right?
Stay where you are when I throw it.
All right, and we'll do this 2 times to make sure. All right, so save yourself some dirt. Are we ready?
Yeah. Ready? Go for it.
My count. 1, 2, 3. All right, get some more dirt. Let's do it again.
Here.
Everybody got dirt? All right, look at me now. Big smiles. This is a happy day. Count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
All right.
Thank you very much.
You don't get to keep the shovel, by the way.
We should keep it. They're going to use these, right?